Good morning, everyone. This is Trudy Hughes, and I'm Associate Director of Disability Services and Title IX at the System Office. And I am so glad that you all could join us today. And first off, the announcements, I want to apologize for having to cancel on Monday. Tuesday needed to cancel at the last minute, but we will be rescheduling after the 4th. Okay, so, and I think that'll be very important information for you when you're scheduling your trainings. As you are fully aware of, that you need to do at least 3 trainings per year to keep your certification. Those trainings can be with faculty, staff, and students. You can also, it's not a requirement, but you can also work with other colleges and collaborate together, but that is not an expectation of ours. Our expectation was for you to just work with your own college, but you may expand out whatever you feel. So we wanted to give you some more information on just how to set up the trainings. And then also today I have Nate Humphreys and Karen Tikkanen. They're with Workforce Continuing Ed, and we wanted to share, they wanted to share some information on how you can then expand your trainings to include the community or collaborate with workforce. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Nate Humphrey, and I'm going to take my camera off, and the stage is all for you.
Thank you, Trudy, and it's a pleasure to be with everyone today. We really appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your day. I'm joined with Karen Tikkanen from my team, and this is certainly something that we've been very excited to see coming to life over the last several months. As you guys are well aware, the state board invested some of their reserve fund to provide the training and to make sure that we were getting a statewide reach on that to deploy a set of trainers. And so J.W. Kelly, Associate Vice President for Student Services, came to me very quickly and said, you know, wouldn't there be a great opportunity for partnership here to not only deploy this on campus, but then look for ways that we can get this out into our communities. We jumped right in, right? There was some really good opportunities there. So our session today will focus on the actions that the board and the system office have taken to facilitate that. Make sure you have access to resources and information to have conversations on your campus and in your community, and make sure that you know some of the different tools and pieces that are in place to make sure that this can be deployed successfully. So I guess the first thing that I wanted to make sure that you all knew is that there is in fact a course now in the combined course library. It is SAF 3011, and I'm going to go ahead and share screen so that you guys can follow along with a couple of visuals, and we'll drop some links in the chat today as well, just to make sure that you can access these same documents today or in the future or whatever floats your boat. How's that? And so gonna pull things up here, and I'm just gonna make things a little bit bigger. All right, here we go. So first of all, back at their April meeting, the state board approved a course on the recommendation of our Workforce Development Leadership Committee. So just like the curriculum side of the house has a committee of leadership from across the state that vet their courses, we have the same on our side. And so on their recommendation, the board approved this new mental health first aid course, SAF 3011, with a course description and a recommended hours of 8 hours, right, to allow for a full day training. What's great about that is that allows for colleges to then be able to offer this in their community as a regular occupational extension course that generates state support for that course content to be delivered. It is recommended at 8 hours, but there's a rule in state board that allows that if you needed to go a little bit above that, you can by up to 20%. So if there's some enrichment of that content that you needed to do locally for whatever reason, that flexibility is there. And recognizing too that the certification that you guys receive, there are multiple flavors of that, right? So there's kind of the general, there's also a known targeted one for public safety, for example, and various different audiences. So this course for now becomes the vehicle that any of those could be operated under and receive that state support for the instructional content. So that's step one, and we'll go ahead and drop those links in there for you in case you feel inspired to go read state board items at some point. It makes for great weekend reading, let me tell you. I think JW can relate to using it like an Ambien. Sometimes they're fun. Sometimes this one probably classifies as a fun one, but sometimes they can be quite dense. So those are coming into the links for you now. And then normal communication is that your workforce and your chief academic officers should have received a numbered memo shortly thereafter, making them aware of the fact that this course was released. And so we'll drop that link in there for you as well, so that if you need to have a conversation locally, you can reference to the memo that communicated this out to the state. And so basically that provides the exact same information again, just the course information, the hours, and the course description, those kinds of things. What I would say is that your workforce continuing education folks, for the most part, should at least be aware of this already, and the kind of operational behind the scenes work that they would do to stand up a course offering. And we'll talk a little bit in a minute about kind of the different options that are out there as well. So we were very intentional when we created this course, and I'm going to scroll down, so bear with me, sorry, that we wanted to make sure that we could leverage some opportunities in the state. So we made sure to incorporate the fact that this is indeed a first aid course, and that word choice was very intentional, not just because of the certifying body's language, but it unlocks some things for us as a state as well. We were also very intentional with using the safety prefix. And the reasoning behind that is that this course would now be eligible in your local communities to be offered to your elementary and secondary school employees, as well as your public safety personnel under the tuition waiver for the state, right? So under North Carolina general statutes, those folks in those two categories, the school employees as well as public safety personnel, are categorically eligible for a tuition and registration waiver. So basically they would be able to take the course without paying for the registration fee, and then the college will be able to make this offering in the community to those two audiences without additional cost for them, but you would still generate state support in those scenarios. Another option that you have out there is the fact that those are two groups, if you will, that will be eligible for the course offering or the content without a registration fee. You could also offer this course for a registration fee in your local community if you wanted to just make it broadly available, right? And so that would follow if you were operating under this course number, the $70 registration fee that's set by the state, and then that would be available for anyone if you wanted to have it as a broad offering on your campuses. And then the final kind of option that's out there is that we felt that there would likely be some strong interest from certain employer groups where there could be a local kind of corporate training opportunity as well, where if a particular employer wanted to get this for their entire employee population in kind of a closed session course, that too would be an option. In those scenarios, though, the course would not necessarily be falling underneath this prefix. Your CE folks are going to direct you towards a self-supporting option, since that's a closed door type scenario where they're basically purchasing that whole class, right? So a corporate training versus a public offering type thing, right? So there's a host of different options there in places where we feel like colleges would be able to leverage you guys as trainers. So I think your requirement for 3 trainings a year should not be a challenge to achieve if your college wants to jump into getting this content out and into the community. So I wanted to pause there and see if we had any immediate questions just based on that first kind of round of information, and go from there. Any questions from the gang today?
I have a question. It's Kathy from Carteret. What about the cost of the manuals? How is that handled? Because I joined a chat group on Facebook of mental health first aid trainers, and there seems to be some confusion about enrolling people and to the course. So I feel very confused about that. So
Sure.
if you could address that.
Yeah. So as far as the course books or manuals and those kinds of things, so unfortunately the waiver doesn't cover that in those scenarios. So locally we'd have to figure out a pathway there. If there was a need for a manual for each student going forward and for them to be able to keep that and take it with them, that would likely be treated like a book charge or something like that. And the fee waiver, unfortunately, from the state's ability is just them to accept that they won't take in those tuition dollars, right? But they can't actually incur the real cost of that textbook on those. Locally, a college could certainly make a decision as to whether or not they wanted to provide those books as a part of it or those manuals, or if they wanted to charge the fee for those manuals to pass that cost along, but that could be locally determined. Absolutely, that's a great question though. And we see that all over the board, and usually it just comes down to what price point are they able to secure those types of manuals, and whether or not it's a consumable that they take with them, or whether or not it's something that they're going to use one time while they're in the course, that kind of thing. But excellent question. So that I'm going to drop one more link in the chat box for you that I wanted to make sure that you're aware of, and that is periodically the system office provides a tuition waiver guide update, right? And so the link that we'll drop is the most recent one of those. And I just went ahead and scrolled down to the page here related to elementary and secondary school employees, just so that you can understand kind of where the context and guidance is for colleges to consider that. And it really comes down to that for this particular group, they're eligible for courses with that SAF prefix, right? So where we were really intentional around that, that are related to both first aid, again, while we were very intentional about that, and CPR, right? And so traditionally that's been kind of medical first aid, but we wanted to make sure that we're being very intentional about the fact that first aid is inclusive in this way, right? So if there are any questions there, any concerns from your internal compliance folks, you can send them our way. We'd be happy to make sure that that is clear. And so the other one that I wanted to highlight today as well is related to if your college was interested in providing this, for example, to law enforcement or fire or any other ones, right? That this too would be eligible for that registration fee. Again, this one I'm just looking specifically at law enforcement, but the eligible training, for example, here includes, again, that same language around courses with that SAF prefix related to first aid or CPR. And so that repeats throughout most of the public safety areas throughout the document as well. This will be updated at some point between now and October, but this language isn't going to change. There might be a highlight of the fact that this course is included in the update section, but that would be it. So we're actually pretty excited about this. We see this as a really good opportunity to leverage that training investment and make sure that, again, that this information is out there. As you guys learned full well, the intention here is to be able to triage a situation and get a person connected to the appropriate resources. And so I think that the exciting thing for us is that it's very important that we're doing that internally for our own organization, but how are we making sure that we're also sharing that knowledge out into our communities, fulfilling our mission. One big important thing that I want to make sure that you guys are aware, and certainly your chief continuing education officers are aware of this already. Internal and professional development at the college is not something that is eligible to be operated for state support, right? And so we wouldn't be creating the course and registering our own employees to the course for those purposes of professional development, right? And so just want to make sure that there is a pretty distinct line between what the board did by getting you guys deployed on college campuses versus what would be offered as kind of that occupational extension, that workforce training going out into the community that would generate those state support dollars. Okay.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Maurice McDonald. My question is, did I just hear you say that you cannot teach this for your state employees at your college? Is that what I understood you say?
For the purpose there of generating budget FTE, right? And so we don't generate budget FTE off of our own employees. They consider professional development activities. So building a course and registering students to it for non-employees of the college, absolutely okay. When we're doing it internally, consider professional development and therefore not eligible for, a traditional instructional reimbursement from the state. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. And also for the law enforcement, they don't have to pay the $70 registration fee. Is that correct?
Correct. So your continuing education registration and records folks and your certainly your public safety personnel there that operate those programs, I'd partner with them because what they would do is they would work with their registrar's office to get the course section built and get those folks billed appropriately, basically waiving their registration fee for the course. So the $70 that they would be charged in state tuition, the state's saying it's okay not to collect that.
Okay.
Great questions.
Hi, this is Tanya Hart. I just have a quick question. I'm not real sure how to make my question clear, so be patient with me.
No worries.
So I work on the curriculum side. I'm the licensed counselor on therapist. I'm the career counselor and a success coach. So I given the opportunity to do the mental health first aid training, which was amazing. So I think kind of what I'm gathering is that the purpose is that I will train faculty and staff, as part of our professional development, which makes perfect sense. So the question has come up, because I was thinking in terms of if continuing education workforce development is going to offer this, then, me instructing that, then in terms of reimbursement for it. I mean, obviously, if I'm doing it for faculty and staff, then that's just, okay, that there would be no fee that I would charge as the certified instructor. But so what I'm being told is that because, and this may be not an answer that you can give me. I'm just wondering if anyone else is experiencing this. Like in terms of being a non-exempt or exempt employee, that it would be like, basically, I'm not going to be allowed to instruct the Con Ed course because it would be considered double dipping in terms of, do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think I get your question, and it's a completely rational question. So I think I'm tracking, and if my response is not getting you where you need to go, let me know. So absolutely, anytime that a course is being taught out through continuing education, there has to be a compensated instructor in order to provide that. Now, what the definition of how that compensation is handled is completely local to the local college as to what their HR and personnel rules are about, faculty overload, about whether or not you're going to be paid as an adjunct or whether you're an instructor or whether it's considered a part of your full-time duties, right? And so that will take on more than 58 flavors at the colleges.
Okay.
So locally, that would be determined as to how they would be handling that. The state rule that's out there in state board code is that when we are looking to make sure that everything's been followed, above board, we're just looking to make sure that the college has compensated in some way their faculty to provide the instruction. And again, that can take on a lot of different flavors. It can be within existing duties of a full-time employee, or it could be part-time hourly, or it could be, contracted just to do a particular piece of that. So there's a lot of different ways that colleges meet that requirement. But as far as, again, that professional development internal to the college versus teaching a class that's being offered by the college. Professional development, the expectation is that you being that deployed trainer, then that's going to take on that professional development internal to the college versus providing instruction. The other thing that I would add to this is just that there's not this expectation that all 58 colleges are going to jump into this and start teaching this as a course offering to all of these folks. What the board and the system office wanted to do was to provide that option, right? So that locally colleges can decide, is there need, is there demand? And if there is, how do we get trainers? Oh, now we have trainers that are deployed across the state that we can use for instructors for that content. And this is step one, if you will, kind of first generation of statewide deployment. We actually already have a handful of colleges that were already offering this, particularly on the public safety side, but they weren't, they were offering this within something else that wasn't a standalone course, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
That helps, absolutely.
Nate, this is Karen. Do you want to review with everyone, like say a local company says, I want to have somebody come in and do this course for my company. They're obviously not going to pay $70 per employee to bring an instructor in. You want to talk to them about how we do that self-support?
Yeah, thanks for that, Karen, for prompting that. Technically on the back side of this, anytime that you're using the SAF 3011 course, for example, that's the course that is intentionally coded to generate that state support. When we're doing in continuing education, when we're doing what we call corporate training or, kind of that customized, it's not customized training, but where we're delivering a one-on-one relationship to meet a specific employer's need, we're usually going to their site and only a kind of a closed door, it's just for their employees. Those we do on what's called a self-supporting basis. So we don't receive direct state support in those scenarios. And so we run that course under a generic, what we call SEF 3001 for self-supporting occupational courses, right? And so it lets us know that it was occupational, but that you locally figured out what to do in that. And in that scenario, the college can again charge a market rate of per person or a flat fee that just says, if you pay this, you can send, up to this many people. There's a lot of different ways that colleges, workforce and continuing education folks handle that. But that's just, again, another way to maybe get that content out and get it into the hands of the community where there's a need. I could certainly see corporate clients being interested in that already have relationships with your college, and even those that don't yet. So that will be just another option that's out there. Those kind of closed door sessions, if you will, are exempt for those kind of public sector employees related to educators and public safety. And so that's a different world in that waiver. But again, this would be, if you were here in Wake County and Red Hat said, we really want you to come in and go through this, and we want our managers to get this, that would be an example of a kind of corporate solutions type offering that the college could engage in. And it doesn't have to be something that grand. It could also be, any mom and pop that wanted to be have their folks up and running with this information. help either their frontline employees or they're working with the general public. It could be managers, supervisors, that kind of thing. Either way, lots of opportunities. We think that really what we're trying to do from a Raleigh perspective is just enable that with the creation of the course, getting you guys deployed, and also having that self-support option out there as well.
Nate, I was going to inform people too that your session actually was going to be part 2, but our part 1 had to cancel. Now, Tuesday, Sigmund from Caldwell Technical Community College will reschedule. So, if there's questions on, how do I set up this trainings with the staff, we will readdress that probably after the 4th of July holiday. So I'll reconnect. I've been in communication with Tuesday, and she will reschedule. So, we're kind of at a disadvantage that this was actually part 2, and part 1 was supposed to come first with just how to deal with your colleges. So, don't get overwhelmed right now of saying, I have to do this too. Okay. We're not trying to do that. We just want, Nate and Karen are setting the stage for other opportunities for you. Okay, that's the bottom line. So there's more to come, basically, and I'll be quiet now.
I think
I can sit in on that meeting because I know if you ever look at Nate's schedule, it's never good. This is a very rare appearance of this man, but I will be more than happy to sit in on Tuesdays and answer any questions or reiterate some of the things that we've already said.
And that's exactly it, Karen. I was just going to say, I know we threw a lot of information at you in basically 25 minutes. The trick is, Karen and I, if you have questions, reach out to us. We'd be happy. If you're not sure of who the right person at your college is, if you're interested in these conversations, we can help make that warm introduction. We've tried to make sure that they're aware that you're there. But really, this was all about just facilitating other options that colleges might have, right? And so absolutely echoing Trudy, not to overwhelm anyone, not to say that this is an expectation of you. From our perspective, it was just a no-brainer. Let's get a barrier out of the way by getting a course there and getting that waiver in place. And so hopefully there's value there. But again, every college and community is different. So whatever you guys end up doing locally, we're going to be celebrating that. So absolutely. Any other questions for Karen or we have Trudy on the line from Student Services as well. Any other kind of things that are on your minds that might be good for you and good for your friends to hear at the same time? Looks like we have at least one hand up.
I think that one hand might be me. I'm Karen Mosley from Durham Tech, and I just have a really quick question. So after our training, which was wonderful, we, as a group, we talked about how much information it is and how time consuming it can be when you're training by yourself. So I made friends with another young lady from another college, and we talked about when we get ready to do these trainings, we can do them together. When I got back to my campus, I had a lot of individuals asking me, could I do the training with you? And so my understanding is you have to have gone through the mental health first aid training and be fully certified in order to train, correct?
Correct. So that's absolutely. And so based on the partnership that we have, and I'm going to goof it up if I try to say the right name of the organization, so I'm just going to not try. But yes, so in order to deliver their content, you have to be a certified instructor and maintain that certification in order to continue delivering it. And so absolutely, you're 100% there.
Thank you.
One thing that I did want to add, though, you triggered a thought for me. One of the great things in continuing education and really any of our college areas is that we have a tremendous amount of flexibility, right? And so the course in particular that we stood up in CE, based on what's most appropriate, is an 8-hour training. We know adults don't learn well if they're sitting somewhere for 8 hours, right? Who can do that? I would love to meet that robot. But the fact is, you can break that content up. You could do that in 2-hour sessions. You could do that in 4-hour sessions. However is the best way for you to deliver that content. Again, as long as we're meeting the standards of our certifying body, there's not a restriction there on that course from the state's perspective that it would all have to be 8 hours all at once. So absolutely, and having team teaching is another powerful tool. Obviously, there can be costs associated with that, but I think that whether it's being professional development or on the instructional side, there's certainly value there.
And I'll echo what you just said, Nate, because I know with conversations that I've had with Tuesday, and Tuesday's been doing this training for a number of years. She does not train for 8 hours straight on. It's too exhausting. Okay. And so she breaks it up with 4-hour days, 4 hours Monday, 4 hours on Tuesday. She does not do 8 hours straight because people physically, it's hard for the trainer. And it's really hard for the participants to maintain attention at that point. So certainly you want, and Tuesday we'll talk to you more about it, but I echo what Nate just said is, there's a lot of flexibility. Now's the time to ask questions because, like Karen said, you don't get Nate Humphrey very often. Okay, we are privileged to have both of these professionals online right now. So please, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask, because I can't answer those questions in their world. Okay, only they can.
And again, I would just say that we certainly will make ourselves available if this is something that you're interested in. We can definitely, if you need a warm introduction, I know sometimes campuses can feel quite, like I have no idea who that person is. We can make those warm introductions and handoffs if that's something that's of value there. I also suspect that a few of you are probably, I'm looking at Kathy Foster right now on the screen because I'm going, I know Perry Harker is going to be like coming for you. So, if he's not already reached out, because I know I've gotten a couple of emails as soon as they saw the course going, who's the trainer in my area? We'd love to work with them. And so I know there's some excitement from the continuing education folks around this, which again, I think is energy building and heading us in the right direction. So, but if there is anyone that's not sure of kind of next steps, we're happy to talk them through that. And if you engage in a conversation and they're not quite sure about some of the technical things on the computer, we can definitely help with that as well. And that's a great question in the chat. We'll post, I'll go ahead and put in email and phone as well. And that way, if something always pops in our heads right after we get off a call, right? So feel free, grab us that way. Bear with me as I reply back. That's the only grace that I ask for.
Nate, do you want me to provide you with a list of the people that have successfully passed the course? Did you get that list, or would you like me to send it to you?
If you wouldn't mind sending that, that would be fantastic.
Actually, will.
I'd be happy to make sure that that's getting out to the CE folks as well, so they know who the certified trainers are that they can reach out to. Depending upon the situation regionally, certainly I could see a college reaching out and saying, hey, our trainer is overwhelmed, but we have a demand from a local agency, and reaching out to see if they can contract with you. That's certainly not out of the question. We're quite used to finding ways to get trainers in CE.
I will take care of that immediately. I just want to tell everybody that we're very proud of you all. You know, we know it was a lot of hard work and dedication, and I'm just so proud that you all, you know, completed the 3 days. I know they were long 3 days, long, you know, pre-training and pre-coursework, and then the 3 days, and then the certification is a lot to ask of a person. So we're just very grateful that you completed this, and appreciative of your commitment.
Absolutely. I think we all know that this is a challenge in many of our communities. Certainly having the skills of knowing what to do and even awareness of what the resources are to try to connect folks to is a lot. And I think it's definitely something where our colleges are in a strong position first to get things, you know, right in our own organizations and get our own people equipped, and then to live that mission of getting that knowledge. Old college professor of mine once said, and it has always stuck with me weirdly, it repeats in my head, there's no greater gift that we can give folks than greater knowledge. And so that plays on repeat somehow in my head, and it's what we're here for. And so thrilled that you guys stepped up to this challenge, and excited to have you doing this work in all of our communities.
So we'll keep it open for maybe 2 more minutes if there's other questions. And if not, then we'll close out in 2 minutes.
I have one quick question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So this actually goes back to the supplies question, in terms of the manuals and the processing guide that goes with it. So if we do the continuing education route where the fee is waived for tuition, but let's say the student, I guess, is paying for the tuition and paying for the book, the supplies, the manual, and the because we have to go into the LMS system within mental health first aid and actually do that payment. How would that work in terms of, I guess, getting that money from the students to get the supplies? Do you understand my question?
So again, I would be relying and passing the expectations of that work over to your CE team. Right, and they may laugh at me for saying that out loud, but that is the responsibility for them, getting that information straightened out for them about how they're going to run their course if they're going to run it that way, right? And so they are accustomed to dealing with certification vendors to secure supplies and resources. They would mostly be looking to have you come in as an instructor and providing the instructional aspects of the course. Their team is accustomed to handling registration, handling student fee, and then handling getting you the books or supplies, right? That kind of program management aspect is what their folks are for in that way, right?
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have a question. I think someone put it in the chat momentarily. Just as Miss Mosley has stated about she's working with people, having a list of people, will we be able to have a list of people around the state that if we need to partner with? I know the group that I went through with, we had a list, but it'd be nice to have a list of people who, if I need to reach out to for assistance, that might assist me as well.
So I'm as far as getting you a list of workforce CE folks, we can certainly do that, and I would defer to Trudy on getting you guys kind of it sounds like community of practice kind of spun up of you guys knowing who all is out there.
I don't think
Maurice, this is Monique. We're both at the same college, so I'm gonna drop my name in the chat.
Okay,
don't
great.
be a problem.
Yes.
You
Oh, yeah,
share.
Monique. Okay, okay. I didn't know you were. I'm glad to know I'm not by myself. Thank you.
Making those connections already.
And
This isn't
Maurice,
my
I'm
personal
part of the
information,
North
so I think I
Carolina.
can share that.
Sorry. Maurice, if you'll reach out to me as well, Kathy Foster, I'm at Carteret. I'm in the Human Services program just like you.
Thank you so much. And now I'm smiling already. Thank you.
Awesome. The informal communities of practice are always, I've always found them to be the best, right? These kind of lists of folks that we can ping for questions and help along the way. So absolutely.
Nate, there's another question from Kathy, a technical question about are we responsible for enrolling participants in the LMS?
So that's another really good question. So, you know, I'm not going to say for sure that you're not going to be, you know, depending upon how it's going to be operated at your college, the college may be asking for your expertise on that aspect of it. Traditionally, the way that that's handled is through the registration process. But again, college by college, it could be depending upon how they divvy up who can log in and do which aspect. But yeah, I think that one will depend, unfortunately. Good question, though.
Okay, I just want to give one more pause for people to have a question if you need it with these wonderful Nate and Karen.
Kathy, if Perry gives you too much trouble, you let me know. He's on my advisory board, so you know I have to see him quite a bit.
He's one of the nicest human beings on the face of the earth.
He really is.
I'm very fortunate.
He's
a great guy.
Great to have on WDLC. He's responsible for getting, you know, he's partially responsible for us getting the course approved.
He's the person who recruited me and said, "Hey, you need to do this." So yeah, I kind of got voluntold.
Yeah, he saw our WDLC agenda packet and called me immediately and said, "Who's the trainer?" He was very excited.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people wanting to collaborate with each other. I certainly can share that information with all of you guys, all you graduates, on, you know, the names, college, and email addresses on who is now certified as a mental health first aid instructor. So I will send that out today to all of you. So you know, you can collaborate and work together and reach out also. I'm going to do a shout out to Kathy Davis. Kathy Davis has already done a training, so I'm going to put you on the spot, woman. And kudos to you. You know, good job. But like I said, we will have another session. Part 1 will be after the 4th of July, so that you guys can figure out then how to do more trainings and how to set that up and do the logistics of it from somebody who's actually done it. Because I have not done it and I can't share that information with you. We want the experts. So at this point, I want to thank Nate and Karen for being online and providing your expertise on working with workforce and continuing ed and the communities and different community agencies on how to set those up. Those are possibilities that you can have and just more options for you. And certainly you have to do 3, but you can certainly do as many trainings as you want during the year. And we are just so happy that you're on board and you're going to provide the service. So with that, I will say thank you for attending and stay tuned for my emails coming soon after the 4th for part 1.
Thank you, everyone. It was great to be with y'all today.